Hello, fabulous entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 180, so all of the show notes, as well as links to extra resources, can be found at tashcorbin.com/180. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 tips for starting a side hustle. So whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you're working part-time, you're working full-time, or you're working in someone else's business in any way, shape, or form, then this episode is going to help you understand how you can still grow your business and get it off the ground in the limited time that you have available. Now, even if you're working in your business full time, I think that this is going to be a really juicy episode for you, because if we can get your business rocking and growing and getting great results in less time, that's always going to be awesome. But in particular, if you are wanting to start a business on the side, whether that be of being a full-time mom, full-time, part-time employment, or being involved perhaps in a family business, then I think that this is going to be a super juicy episode for you. Let's get started. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So if we're honest, in reality, for most people, when we are starting a business, it's on the side of something. Whether you are on maternity leave or a full-time stay-at-home mum, whether you have full or part-time employment, or whether perhaps you are helping out with a family business or your partner's business, in most cases, we're not just sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting for inspiration to strike. Now, I was very lucky when I first started my business in that I made the decision I was going to start my business. I had a conversation with my partner about it, and then I actually quit my job and went straight into working full-time in my business. We actually went on holidays for 3.5 weeks in Europe in between. And then when we came back from holidays, I basically, on the Monday, sat down at my desk and was like, right, now I have a business. Let's get started. But not a lot of people have that luxury or have the liberty of being able to do that. So if you are starting a business, chances are you are already meaningfully engaged, whether that be in parenting or whether that be in employment or whether that be in business in some other form. So I wanted to give you some tips on if you are limited in the time that you have, particularly if you're working full-time or you have a full-time workload of some sort. With that limited time that you have, what do you need to do in order to get that business off the ground? How can you start a side hustle and make that extra money, get the income in, and maybe get to the tipping point where you can let go of the other employment or other forms of income that you have as quickly and effectively as possible? So I've got 5 tips for you here. Now remember, everyone's situation is unique. And as I said, even if you're working in your business full time, I think these 5 tips might be quite helpful for you as well. So number 1, you need to be honest about your capacity. Yes, particularly for stay-at-home mums, you are at home most of the day, but you don't have access to full-time capacity in order to start your business. Chances are you're going to have limited opportunities to get your children into care potentially at the start of your business. You're going to have the kids at home with you. You're going to have distractions, and you're not necessarily going to have a lot of time to invest in your business. You probably also need to be quite flexible around childcare arrangements if you are looking after kids. Now, if you're in employment or if you're working in a business, then chances are you're building it around part-time or full-time hours. So your time is going to be limited. We need to be clear about what your capacity is. And I don't want you setting yourself up so that you only have space for 3 hours sleep a night, you're burning the candle at both ends, and you're not showing up in the way that you truly want to. I don't think that that's necessary at all for starting a business. And in fact, for the people that I see who do jump into business in that way, they can often end up burning themselves out, creating a very inefficient business and not focusing on the important activities. Now, the law here that I think relates really beautifully is Parkinson's law. So you may be familiar with this, that a project will expand to take up the time that you allocate to it. So if you allocate that you have 2 hours a day to work on your business, guess what? It takes 2 hours a day for you to grow your business. Now, of course, there are some nuances here, but I want you to come back to the core principle here, and that is be very honest about the capacity that you have. Don't try and jam it into every hour of every day. Don't overextend yourself and expect to have no life for the first 6 months of growing your business. The days of that being a prerequisite just are gone. That's not a requirement these days. So let's say you're in full-time employment. You might decide you have an hour a day to do behind the scenes activities in your business, and then you have 2 hours on a Tuesday night and 2 hours on a Thursday night to see clients, and then you maybe have a couple of hours each day on the weekend. I truly believe that regardless of the type of business that you're starting, that is more than enough capacity to at least get your business started. But you're going to need the rest of my 5 tips in order to really make it work. So number 1, be very honest about your capacity and be realistic about the amount of time that you have. If you say to yourself, well, I'm going to do 4 hours every night once the kids are in bed, and then I'm going to do 8 hours a day on Saturday and 8 hours a day on Sunday, chances are you're never going to actually work those hours. So you're going to spend every week, at the end of every week, looking back going, I didn't work the hours that I meant to this week. Oh, life got in the way. And you're going to feel like you haven't nailed it. I'd much rather see you be more honest about the time that you have and then nail that time and be very diligent about that time. If you're very clear on the capacity that you have and you set limited hours for yourself, you have more likelihood of actually sticking with those hours and less likelihood that you'll need to change them. You'll find ways to make it work. So that's number 1, is be very clear about the capacity that you have. Now, if you are looking after children and you want to start your business with the kids at home, one thing I will say is that it's not a forever thing to be working and parenting and have your kids at home at the same time. I'm not a parent myself, but for most women that I see creating businesses and growing businesses, one of the things that they need to get clear on is at what point does it make sense for you to start popping your kids into care or get some help in the home to look after the children whilst you start your business. I don't want to go on a bit of a feminist rant here about the expectation of women being primary child carers, but if a man was starting a business and needed to have 4 hours a day, 2 days a week to work on that business, chances are that we wouldn't automatically expect him to also be trying to entertain and look after the children in the background and juggle both of those actions at once. The only reason that we expect it of women is because we've been doing it for so long. And as I said, I'm not going to go on a bit of the big feminist rant there. But at some point, chances are, if the reason why you're doing this on the side is because you're looking after your children, then you're going to need to come up with other childcare arrangements so that you can be fully focused on your business for those short periods of time. Now, you don't have to put your kids into full-time care. You don't have to send them away 5 days a week. I'm not suggesting that, you need to abandon your children, won't somebody think of the children, that kind of thing. All I'm saying is that if you are growing a business and you're creating a business, you're starting to get clients in the door, chances are that you're not going to be able to look after your children and see clients, for example, at the same time. So you're going to have to think about those things and make some decisions about at what point would it make sense for me to send the kids to daycare for a day, for example, or at what point would it make sense for me to get some home-based help whilst I work on my business so I can shut myself into my office and get some work done each week. Just planting a seed of something to think about there. Number 2, get clear on what is a really good use of your time. And this is probably the number one area where I support people who are starting a business on the side. And that is that a lot of people, when they start a business, focus on the wrong activities. They focus on actions that keep them very busy, that on the surface look like they're growing their business, but ultimately have a very low return on investment in terms of your time. So have a think about what are the things that you are doing to grow your business, and are these actually getting you to that tipping point of being able to say, I am in business, yes, I've got consistent money coming in, or to what extent are they not doing that? So for example, building your own website is a bit of a luxury if you're starting a business on the side. Doing your own graphics, coming up with your own logo, putting all of that time and energy into designing business cards and flyers. None of those things are actually going to have a very high return on investment when you're first starting out. So focus on those activities that will have a high return on investment. And in most cases, for women in business, that is connection-based marketing. So things like being active in online communities, finding those very warm leads for your business, and focusing on how you can get out there and start spreading the word about your business and making sales. Those actions are the ones that are going to be high return on investment. Number 3, know your tipping point. So if you're in a job, at what point would you be willing to let go of that job? If you are looking after the kids full time, as I said, at what point would you be willing to get some home-based help or pop the kids into care so that you can be focusing on your business for an extended period of time or in some larger chunks? At some point in time, your business is going to need more time from you in order for you to make more money. And at what point are you able to free up some of that time? The other tipping point to think about is at what point do you hire help? Now, hiring help so that you can keep growing your business doesn't necessarily have to be help in the business, but that can be very helpful. So it could be something like getting in a cleaner. No one's paying you to clean your toilet, but if you were working in your business for an extra 3 hours, chances are you would be making money from that activity. You get to stay in your zone of genius if you outsource things that you are doing around the home that potentially are stopping you. And there's an opportunity cost there of not having hired help at home. So it might be getting in a cleaner. It may be getting someone in to prepare some meals for you. It may be getting someone in to look after the children. It may be getting some other help around the home or behind the scenes for you. The other type is in the business. So hiring an assistant to help you with content, social media, all of the things that you can outsource quite quickly in your business is something to think about as well. So have a think about what is your tipping point for getting help around the home, for getting help in your business, and for letting go of that full-time, part-time job, or getting support with taking care of your children if that's the thing that's tying up your time. Number 4, if you are starting your business on the side, for most people, you need to get help sooner. So if you're starting a business and you're like me, I was working in my business full time. I didn't really need help in my business or around the home because my business was my only other big responsibility. And I was able to build my business around looking after the house, doing the washing, preparing all of our meals, doing the cleaning, and being a great partner to my partner. And I was able to build my business in a very flexible way. So I didn't require a lot of help in my business when I first started because I had a lot of time on my hands. So have a think about your situation. If you are starting a business on the side, then for most people, particularly if you're starting on the side of a full-time job, for most people, I would say hire help in your business before you quit your full-time job. That way, you've got the money coming in to be able to keep paying that person in your business even if your business doesn't have, great sales results for that week or that month. Number two, you can start building your business in a very efficient way and make it a well-oiled machine. And the things that you get someone to do to help support your business are the things that are going to help bring in clients and grow your business long term. So it's always a great idea to get that stuff happening as quickly as possible. So have a think about what your tipping point is, and then number 4 is get help sooner rather than later. Tip number 5 is don't move the goalposts. So I've seen this happen for a lot of people who are starting a business. They say, if my business can bring in $1,000 a week consistently for a couple of months, then I would feel very confident in letting go of my day job. And then their business brings in $1,000 a week for a few weeks. They're starting to feel like, oh, I am getting to that tipping point. And then they move the goalposts and say, no, I'll need $2,000 a week from my business. No, I'll need $2,000 a week for my business for at least a year. No, I need $2,000 a week for my business, and I need $10,000 in the bank, and I need to have been making that income consistently. And they end up moving the goalposts and stretching it out, and they're just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So, of course, have conversations with the people you need to have conversations with. Get clear on what that tipping point is. And when you reach that tipping point, if you're feeling like you need to move the goalposts, have more conversations about it. Get real on why you feel like you need to move the goalposts, and where possible, don't move the goalposts. You set a challenge for yourself. You set the tipping point. You got clear on what you were going for. You achieved it. It's time to start ramping up your business. Now, for some people, the tipping point might be that you go from full-time to part-time, or the tipping point might be a tipping point at which you can pop the kids into care for an extra day. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to quit your job like I did and start completely from scratch. There are ways that you can transition from whatever you're doing now into working in your business full time. Now, the other thing I would suggest, and a bonus tip here, is think about creative ways that you can transition as well. So I know some people who they thought that their tipping point was going to be a certain income amount, and at that tipping point they would quit their job completely and just be in their business. And what they ended up doing was hitting not quite that tipping point and deciding, actually, I need to let go of my full-time job to really make this thing happen. And they took part-time work elsewhere, or they took a contract role that was a couple of days a week, and they had more capacity to work on their business. So, you can manifest some amazing opportunities that free up your time and allow you to step in your business more fully without it looking like that black and white, yes or no, all or nothing kind of concrete way of jumping into it. There's lots of flexible ways that you can create a business. Now, one of the reasons why I was able to jump into my business full-time and so confidently when I first started was I had a conversation with my partner. We were very clear about how long our deadline was. We set a target of me getting back to my existing salary within the first 2 years, and if I hadn't done that, I could jump back into paid employment and working for someone else. And also, in that conversation, we talked about what some backup plans would be if we needed to make money quickly. And for me, I'd come from a management consulting background, and I knew that I could jump in and do part-time management consulting or contract work for previous employers, previous clients, and in very creative ways. I knew of a lot of organizations where I could reach out to them and say, I'm available to do short-term consulting work. Do you have any work in X, Y, and Z? So I had a little bit of a safety net for myself in case we needed to make money quickly if my business wasn't performing particularly well. I was very fortunate. My business became very successful very quickly, and rather than needing to wait 2 years, I was able to allow my partner to let go of his job just 6 to 7 months after starting my business. And we basically retired him and we moved to the beach. So it was a really wonderful experience for me, but I understand for a lot of people that's not necessarily their journey. But it doesn't have to be hard or black and white or yes, no. There are beautiful, more transitional ways that you can jump into being in business. And absolutely, it is possible to create business success on the side of full-time, part-time employment or other responsibilities as well. All right, now hopefully this has been given you some stimulating ideas and things to think about. If you would like to continue the conversation, come on over to the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook community and use the hashtag #PodcastAha. And if you use hashtag #PodcastAha, let me know that you've been listening to episode number 180 of the podcast, and let me know what your insights are and any questions that you have as well. And remember to go to tashcorbin.com/180 because I do have an extra resource there for you. And that is my How to Fast Track the Startup Journey in Your Business free training. So if you go to tashcorbin.com/180, there'll be a link for you to come and continue the conversation in the group, and also a link to that extra free resource. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Until next time, beautiful lady, I cannot wait to see you shine. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.